Covington is the Chancellor of Education for the Achievement Authority, and we'd like to hear from you, and we're very pleased that you're with us this morning. Please share with us some of your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Anthony, those of you who are elected officials, members of the Michigan State Legislature, former members of the Michigan State Legislature, those of you who are representing various community groups across the city and across the state, and those of you who are simply concerned citizens, I bid you good morning. As a result of the round-robin style introductions that we just made, many of you heard the work that's going on with our youth. And from those introductions, I hope you can see that there is serious work yet to be done around making sure that young people are getting what they need in terms of local community services, state services, and even services at the national level, that they can acquire the skills, knowledge, and competence that they need to become what I would call a fierce competitor on the economic world stage. A little bit about my background and who John Covington is. I am a native of Alabama. I went to public schools there, university, attended local university there, HBCU, Montgomery, Alabama State University. And I was a political science major, sociology minor, with an emphasis in secondary education. Since the 8th grade, I've always wanted to be a teacher. Upon graduating from college back in the 80s, the social studies market was filled at that time, and I took the first available job that I could find, which was that of a state prison guard at Draper Correctional Center out in Elmore, Alabama, where I spent 6 years working. And one of the things that I found particularly odd during that experience is my work and direct responsibility with what we call sick call. I worked at 10 at night, 6 in the morning. During the morning hours, I was responsible for identifying those inmates who were on sick call. I would go down to the social services department, pull their records, and prepare for the coming of the nurse who would tend to their various ailments. They would file in to see the nurse one at a time, at which point I would give the nurse their jackets, which really their records, we call them jackets. While the nurse was visiting with one inmate, the next inmate in line would be awaiting his turn, and I would have his jacket ready, and I'd always go through them with a considerable amount of interest. One of the things that struck me as extremely odd is that the SAI score, which is a School Ability Index score of the inmate. School Ability Index is likened unto an IQ. To qualify in public schools for special education services, you have to score around 70 or below. And one of the things that I found odd about the inmates, most of whom were African Americans, males, had SAI scores in excess of 110, which says to me that our system of public schooling in Alabama, and probably nationally, was egregiously failing young people, and particularly African American males. And on my last day of working at Draper, before taking my first job in public education in Eufaula High School as a teacher, I left out that morning never looking back, but left out with knowing that for the first 6 years of my work after college, I had spent keeping young men behind bars. Now that I had an opportunity to work in public education, I'd spend the rest of my life doing everything I could do to keep them out. And the only way that I know that that's remotely possible, given the nature of our society as it presently exists, is to make sure that young people get a good education. And I know that there has been a lot of discussion, a lot of talk around the purpose of the EAA. And I welcome the opportunity this morning to clarify with you, first of all, who I am, and then our purpose and the role that EAA will make or take in transforming public schooling in Michigan. First of all, the EAA was formed as a result of an interlocal agreement between the regents of Eastern Michigan University and the Detroit Public Schools. That's what gave birth to the EAA, being responsible for taking the 100 persistently lowest achieving schools across the entire state of Michigan. 38 of the 100 schools are located in Detroit. We will be starting out this fall with the first 15 of those schools, 6 high schools and 9 elementary schools. And to, I guess, communicate to you as how serious the problem is, first of all, I think all of us need to get our hands, our minds around that this is not a problem, or public schooling is not a problem that's germane to the state of Michigan, nor is it a problem that can be confined to Detroit alone. The public schooling issue is a national issue, and when you look across the nation at urban centers, and in some cases rural, and in some cases even suburban, it is a national problem that we as a country has consistently failed to adequately address, to bring about the kind of changes that need to be brought about to make sure that minority children across this country are getting the kind of education that they need to be competitive with their international counterparts. The same problems that we have here in Detroit, they're no different than those problems that they're having in Philadelphia, Chicago, Boston, Compton, or LA Unified, or Birmingham, Alabama. When you look at the 6 or the 15 schools that we will be taking this coming fall, in the elementary schools, less than 25% of the children in those schools are proficient in the area of communication arts. Less than 15% of them are proficient in the area of mathematics. When you look at the high schools, less than 10% are proficient in the area of communication arts, and 0% are proficient in the area of mathematics. Not a single student proficient in math. And as you look at measurable student academic achievement across schools across the country, the problem is the same. And it is my firm conviction that the reason that this is continuing to happen is because as a country, we have failed to push the envelope. We have failed to change the paradigm in how we deliver educational programs and services for young people. Our system of public schooling in this country was primarily developed for farmers, and it was never developed for minorities. Now, that's just the fact of the matter. And so, when you look at the state of Michigan, Michigan does not require children to attend school based on days. Michigan requires children to attend school based on hours. So Michigan says that each child must receive 1,098 hours of instruction per year. But if you would convert the 1,098 hours of instructional time into days, based on a 6.5-hour school day, Michigan requires 170 days. If you would then do a comparison between Michigan and the other 48 states, and please don't go out and tell folk our Chancellor doesn't know how many states we have. You have to understand that I said other 48 intentionally, and please understand that I'm from Alabama, and to date we just hadn't been able to bring ourselves to count Mississippi. All right. If you would compare.
That's cold.